When buying an investment property, the most important thing that we need to do is the due diligence. It's super important that we find out the history of the property, if it's in a flood zone, if it's in a bushfire zone, and are there any easements on the property. I'm going to show you how to do all of this all on one or two platforms, all for free. You don't have to pay any monthly subscriptions. I'm going to jump over to my laptop and I'm going to show you how to do the due diligence on a property that you are looking to purchase. Once we've decided we're going to buy a property, we need to start looking up listings in the area that we want to purchase. We want to do the due diligence as quick as we can, and we want to do it as thorough as we can, because we don't want to go to opens and realize actually there's an easement on the property and I can't build a pool, or that it's in a flooded location and we don't want to be in a flooded location, or that it's zoned inappropriately for what we want to use the property for. And so I'm going to take you through a few sites that I use and how I use these sites as well. So these sites are obviously free, but we do have, for our clients, we do have paid subscriptions where we double check the due diligence, do more due diligence, because we want to buy a really good property. We don't want it to be an absolute, drain and burn a hole in our pockets, because cash flow is so important. So on realestate.com, we're going to use Brisbane as an example. We can go Brisbane. Let's go property in Brisbane. Let's filter it to house, just because it's a little bit easier to demonstrate the due diligence. And so what we want to do, let's look at this Bracken Ridge property, right? So it's a bit old. I wouldn't go for it, but look, for the sake of this example, let's go with this property. So the first thing that I like to do is look at the map. So this looks like it's in a bit of a little bit of an estate. This looks like a main road here, Norris Road, but it seems like protected by this road here. We've also got this little circuit, and so what I like to do is see if there's any roundabouts. We don't really want to be on a roundabout. Are there any schools nearby? We like to be close to schools, but I don't want to be living in a school. And so that's what I do. Look at the map, make sure we're not on a roundabout, make sure there's no real schools nearby. We've got an academy here, but that's, pretty much walking distance. We've got Norris Road State School, but, that's probably 500-600 meters away. And then the next thing I do is go on Street View. Let's have a look at the street and see what the street looks like. So we've obviously got power poles there, but they're not those huge monstrosities of power poles that you see there. Looks like a pretty quiet road, really. It's not a main road. It looks a little bit of an older estate. And, we want to know, I don't really like corner blocks, but corner blocks are good for, put a granny flat, because corner blocks you can get dual access. So sometimes corner blocks are great. We want to see, everything. The grass looks well kept. It looks like the neighbors actually care about it. So that looks pretty good. And, we're looking for any creeks and just how busy it is, right? Like majority of the times you can tell how busy a road is just by the amount of cars there are there. And so that's not on a main road, so that's perfect, right? And so the next thing I do, get the street and jump over to Archistar. So Archistar is a free platform that I like to use. I really like it. And so you can do your due diligence really quickly on Archistar. So that's the street there in Bracken Ridge. And Archistar, the beauty of Archistar is it layers everything for us, right? So what it does is, cool, we can see what zoning we are, actually. That's probably worth showing you guys. You can see, so this is low density residential. So if you're looking to do, some apartments, build apartments, or, you want to know, hey, is somebody going to be able to knock down double block next to me and build huge apartments? At this stage, low density residential. So that's just, above tree height. typically. And so we got, square meterage, the street frontage, and that's what I'd look at there. And then we've got the property right here. All right, so let's zoom out a little bit and have a look at this property. I'll just move myself over there, and we can layer. This is the beauty of it. We can layer what we need to here, right? So let's see, we've been affected by flooding, and you can see that other parts of the estate have. Where does that originate from? Probably Logan River over here. There we go. This is the Logan River snaking over there. So this property hasn't been affected by flooding. I double check with the council website as well, because sometimes these platforms don't necessarily have the same information that council websites have. And so let's look at some bushfire overlays. Any bushfire overlays? No, let's get rid of the flooding map and let's see bushfire overlays. So these are bushfire warning zones. And so I'm not overly concerned about bushfires for this property. And then, another thing I like to do is look at your, water supply pipes. Cool. That looks pretty standard. We want to look at easements. Easements is a huge thing to look for, particularly if you want to put, a pool one day, or you want to, do a knockdown rebuild or whatever it is. It's really good to know what kind of easements are on the block. So there's an easement here on this block here that you could see right there. So that's an easement. But on our block back here, what were we? I think we were 21. On our block back there's no easements, right? So easements, they're technically not your land. They're owned by urban utilities, the council, or Energex or whatever, and you can't build on these. Pretty much can't do anything with it. Sometimes you can't even put a garden bed on them, and so it's really good to understand all of this before you get to opens and you realize there's an easement at the back, or this is in a flooded location. You've just wasted all your time, your Saturday, looking at all of the properties. Other things you could look for, you got all of these council lines. If you want, you can look at, see if there's any heritage listings in the area. There's so many things you can look for. And so, zoning, you can see this is the low density zoning. You got some commercial use zoning there. And yeah, this is a free site that you can use. Check out the fire ants, see if there's any koalas in your area. And yeah, it's beautiful. This is an awesome site that you can use to do your due diligence before you actually get to opens. And yeah, they're the two that I would use. And you can, when you get to the opens, you ask all of these questions and ask, hey, where's the actual easement? Sometimes the agents don't even know there's an easement on there. Or you want to find out, has this been flooded before? And the agents, typically they'll say, oh, we're not 100% sure or whatever. You can go in there with some information and say, hey, look, looks like it's been flooded before. Can you tell me more about it? And yep, that's the beauty of doing your due diligence before you get to opens. Hope this helps.